Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, my colleagues. This afternoon, we're going to be looking at the different learning centers and how to facilitate children's learning by the use of these learning centers. From time to time, we have established these centers in our classrooms, but we don't necessarily utilize them to the fullest and the fullest measure, or we sometimes have established these learning centers, right? But the children are not allowed to use them. They have limited time, or they have limited or no interaction with the materials in these centers. All right, we're going to look at the importance of these learning centers. We're going to be looking at the different learning centers and how we can set up our room to facilitate these learning centers. Some of the learning centers are the Art Center, the Blocks Manipulative Center, Home and Dramatic Play Center, Reading Center, Writing Center, Math Center, Science Center, Sand and Water Center, Music Center. We're also going to be looking at the definition of a learning center, how to set up these learning centers. I'll be showing you a floor plan so you can see which center is to go where, or which center can be close to each other. We also want to look at the appropriate materials that should be in these centers. We want to look at how we manage children's behavior and their choices in these centers. All right, and finally, we want to see what children learn from each of these developmental areas: cognitive development, social development, emotional development, physical and physical concepts. All right. But first, let me start by defining what a learning center is. All right? A learning center or learning centers are designed or created by teachers or caregivers to facilitate differentiated learning. This area is provided to accommodate small groups of children as the children interact with the materials provided in each of the centers based on their age group and the learning outcomes that will take place. Children learn to share, children learn to socialize, and children learn from each other with the utilization of the various learning centers. All right, we're going to be looking now at a floor plan. This is a basic floor plan of our classroom, and you see our art center here, and the art center is beside the sand and water area. Those two centers can go hand in hand or alongside each other. We have the home and dramatic play center. We have the blocks and the manipulative center. We have the music center here, and away from all those centers, we have the reading center here. Now, it is important where you lay out each center, right? For example, we call some centers the noisy centers, the block center, the home center, the music center. All those centers are considered to be the noisy centers. And with the noisy centers now, you want to keep them away from the quiet centers, which is like the reading center, the writing center, and the math center. So really and truly, the layout of the centers are very important, because as I said before, some of these centers are where the children make a lot of noise. Some of these centers are where they do a lot of playing, a lot of make-up playing, like for example, the home and dramatic play area. That's where they will be role playing. The blocks, they'll be building blocks and so on. The music, they'll be playing different musical instruments. The art and sand and water and so on. But for the reading center now, it's a quiet area that should be away from all other centers. All right, and in the reading center, you will see that children need, to be a little bit quieter than the average center, than the other centers rather. All right, so that's a layout. Now let's look at the two of my choice would be the reading center and also the science center. All right, so let's look at the reading center. For the reading center, we should have, these are the appropriate materials that we should have. All right, we should have at least 4 different variety of books. Picture books, single word books, sensory books, which involve smell or touch, story books, alphabet books, rhyming books, rhymes, simple factual books. We should have a CD player in there also to play songs, stories, and rhymes. And we should have a tape recorder to record the children's voices and play them back. All right. The next center I want us to focus on is the science center. All right. And some of the material that we will find in the science center are structure of matter, where we look at various concepts: sink and float, liquid and solid, dissolving, melting. We look at the life cycle of plants and animals. We look at living and non-living things. We'll also look at geographical concepts such as the season or the weather. Children will learn how to respect and protect their environment in the science area. They'll use different magnifying glass, sorting trays, scales, sensory bottles, and they'll also, sometimes you can have a class pet, maybe some birds or a hamster or a fish, and so these living things help children to appreciate living and non-living things. Also, you can put magnets. Magnets are, children really love magnets. They love scales, they love mirrors, they love sorting trays, and all of that. So all of those materials you can put in the center. Reason why we choose these materials now for the reading center, some of the reasons are literacy. Literacy is very important and fundamental to every child's success, okay? So it is important that you facilitate this and be encouraged that children really need a variety of books in the centers, right? And these books must not just be any book or ordinary books. It must reflect the students' interests. It must reflect their experiences, and it also must reflect the background of the children. These books must also reflect various topics, for example, families, for example, community helpers, true stories, and also some of the topics that you as a teacher will be doing in class. Alright? Reasons for choosing the materials for the science center now. These materials will help students to create, to observe, and experience, and experiment. Alright? As you mentioned science, you know that science has to do with a lot of observation and experiment. Students will also learn to do their own investigations. They will also learn to share their own ideas. Alright? They will draw conclusions. They will learn to make decisions. And they will also learn to take care of living and non-living things. Alright? Now let's look at strategies for managing children's choice and behavior in the centers. Teachers should ensure that each center is age appropriate, and that is very important. If the center is not age appropriate, you're going to find that children are bored, or some children, they're going to be very disruptive. So first you have to ensure that these centers are appropriate based on the different age level. Alright? You have to also ensure that each activity that is provided in each center is interactive and is interesting. If it's not interactive and if it's not interesting, then you're going to be having disruptive behaviors. Alright? You have to make sure that the materials you provide facilitate differentiated learning or differentiated instructions. So you should know the group of students you have. So if you have students and you categorize them in 3 levels, you'll have students who are performing at the highest level, the middle level, and at the lower level. You have to make sure that each center have the 3 different areas to facilitate these. Because if you put ideas or materials in the center to just accommodate students who are at the lower level, what is going to happen? The students who are at the higher level, they're going to be bored. So they're going to start misbehave, they're going to be